It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Talking Boxing with Billy C. Show, or the Billy C. Show. It's a little shorter. Glad you could join us. I hope you're doing okay, whatever time you're watching or listening to this show. Speaking of this show, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage, The Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just go to Amazon.com or just drop me an email, Billy@talkingboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Or you can get a copy when you get yourself some tickets to the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame this year, which I've been inducted in. I'm so excited about that. I want you to join me because if it wasn't for all you guys, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be part of the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. And today's show is being brought to us in part by that. So just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the banner that says, it's got a kind of a funky picture of me. And if you just click that, it'll take you right to all the information where you can get yourself some tickets to join me. I'd love to see you there. I know a bunch of people have reached out, and they're going to be joining me in that celebration. It's a great spread at Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach, New York, Long Island to be exact. So check it out. Click the banner on BillyCBoxing.com. It's to the right side, and that'll bring you to the man himself, Mr. Jack Hirsch. And you can get yourself some tickets, take out an ad, do all those things. So check it out. Hey, also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. Just click subscribe right there. We need you to like it. We want you to follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, all that stuff with the social media. Okay. Today, first of all, it's good to be back. We took a couple of weeks off. And as it's unfolding, we're probably going to be just doing specials after the September event. So hopefully you'll follow us with that. And if you want us to continue doing the weekly show, just drop me an email, Billy@talkingboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Okay, first thing I want to talk about is my man Terence Crawford. He moved up in weight and is now the WBA junior middleweight champion. He won a decision over Israil, the Dream Madrimov, and Madrimov dropped to his first loss of his career. He's now 10-1-1, and Terence Crawford, 40 wins, no losses, 31 coming by knockout. And to be exact now, it's 41 wins. But in any event, what did I think of the fight? All right. So here's the deal. My honest opinion, Terence Crawford, I've heard a lot of people telling me, Terence Crawford, he shouldn't have moved up in weight. Forget it. He has no chance. Listen, Terence Crawford is a smart fighter. He's an excellent boxer, and he's a smart fighter. And I think what happened in this fight, and this is my analysis and my opinion, is Madrimov was really efficient and successful in constantly moving. And that constant movement prevented TC to really go in and go for the knockout, go in for the kill, land, multi-punch combinations, 5, 6, 7 punches at a time like he usually does. That movement prevented it. And because Terence Crawford is such a talented boxer, he didn't fall into that trap where he's, punching air. and leaving himself open for a counterpunch. I thought he fought a smart fight. It could have been, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't expecting him to win by a knockout. I thought it would come later on in the fight. I also told everyone that asked me my opinion that this fight was not going to be an easy fight. Everybody started getting on the old, he's fighting a nobody. He's going to knock him out in 4. People are saying this. No, this was a big guy. Madrimov was a big dude. He reminded me a lot, not that I'm comparing him, but he reminded me a lot of Triple G, the way he fought, his build, all of that. He was not an easy out. And I do believe that Madrimov, which, of course I'm murdering his name, is going to have a lot of opportunity and still going to make some noise in the junior middleweight division. Terence Crawford is just an elite fighter. So the way I scored this fight was slightly different than the official judges did. I scored this fight 117-111 for Crawford. There were several rounds that were extremely close, but I scored the fight 117-111. The reason, and if you're watching live, come on over to the chat room. Even if you're on another platform other than YouTube, come on over to the YouTube chat room. Give a shout out to Raven, who's in there now by his lonesome. So come on over and join him or her, whatever. But I scored the fight 117-111 because I thought that every time that Terence Crawford did land a punch, that they were landing flush and they seemed to be hard punches. A lot of the punches that Madrimov threw, they landed. He did land some good shots on Crawford. As a matter of fact, he landed more punches on Terence Crawford than I've seen. Terence Crawford, when he was in that wheelhouse, and like I said, that movement, that constant movement by Israil, I'll say his first name, gave Crawford some trouble. Plus this was the first fight that he had where he was a little bigger. And my man John from LDL TV popped in. That's good. Glad he could join us. Listen, I don't take anything away from TC in this fight. I really don't. As a matter of fact, if he stays in this division, I know he wanted to move up to super middleweight and fight Canelo Alvarez. And I saw all the social media posts afterwards giving basically saying he doesn't stand a chance. He should stay in this division. I mean, truthfully, if Terence Crawford wasn't trying to do great things, he wouldn't have even left the welterweight division. So he's trying to do great things. Great fighters do great things. My man Dave is up in the chat room. Yes, it's morning for you, Dave, but it's afternoon here on the East Coast. But glad you could join us. Joel popped in. My man Joel, haven't seen him in a while. I liked the fight from a tactical point of view. It was a good display of discipline by Terence Crawford, in my opinion. He didn't get suckered into all the movement. He didn't get suckered into the fans, including myself, wanting to see a knockout. He fought a smart fight, and he won the fight. Some people thought it was a little closer. I mean, all the judges had it. 2 of the 3 judges had it pretty damn close, 115, 113. The other had a 116, 112. And like I told you, I scored it even a round more, 117, 111 for Crawford. Where does he go from here? I don't know. His Excellency wants to get him some more fights. I mean, who's out there for him? I don't think he's got anything left to prove personally. If he wanted to do something, and I was thinking of this, I know people are going to be, busting my, what's about this, but just to give my good old buddy Floyd the zing, if I'm Terence Crawford, now that he's got his excellency behind him, maybe fight 11 more fights against winnable opponents. I don't want to use the word cherry picking like Floyd did, and how Canelo is. I'll get to that in a second. Uh, and then break that record. That would shatter little Floyd Mayweather, wouldn't it? But Crawford's not that type. He wants to do greatness. I give him props for winning this fight. And I thought he did win it. Anybody that says he didn't, I disagree. And I thought that he put on a great performance, boxing skill wise. Now, before I get to Canelo, some of the other fights on that card, I got to admit that card, I was so psyched for that card. All right. And then I kind of was let down. I mean, I was shocked that Pitbull Cruz lost, but he deserved to lose. Venezuela, give him credit. When I saw, I didn't know. I gotta admit, I didn't know much about El Rayo, but when he comes into this fight with 13 wins and a couple of losses, 9 knockouts, I'm going, oh yeah, they're feeding him to Pitbull. But his boxing ability limited Pitbull Cruz at what he could do. And it also showed his Pitbull Cruz's vulnerability against a guy who can actually box and move. We saw it against Tank Davis, but I thought that Pitbull was a little more aggressive, and that fight seemed a lot closer to me, closer than this one. At times, Pitbull Cruz was being aggressive, but he wasn't really throwing as many punches as often as he usually does. He took some time off during this fight, and I think it cost him the fight. I think we'll see him back. But hey, credit to Jose El Rayo, Venezuela, who won that fight. The way the judges scored it, 116, 112 twice, and one had it for Cruz, 115, 113, which that had to be the plant judge because I don't think that Cruz won that fight at all. In an entertaining fight that reminded me of big old George Foreman, his defense, where you could pound away at that cheeseburger body and not affect them, was the Martin Bacoli victory over Jared, the real big baby Anderson. Look, Jared Anderson, he showed a lot of heart in this fight. But when I saw his eyes roll back in his head for the first knockdown, I said, this guy, he's not going to make it, and it goes to show you, I've been saying this for the last 20 years, all right? What happens in boxing when you don't, progressively increase your fighter's level of opposition while you're building him up, he never gets a chance to get better. We witnessed that when he fought Martin Bacoli, because he didn't know what to do. He went back to the same old thing, which was Bacoli's strength. If he was smart, he would have tried to box from a distance. I know Bacoli was so much bigger, but, as talented as everyone thinks Anderson is, he's got a suspect chin. Now, listen, Bacoli's a big dude, right? And you're going to say what you want. Oh, well, look how big he was and everything else. But every heavyweight's got knockout power. Jared Anderson never really fought a guy. And Bacoli's only loss, and they keep saying about with Michael Hunter, the only reason why he lost that fight is he separated his shoulder in that fight. Not that I'm making excuses for him, but the truth of the matter is he lost that fight because it's separated shoulder. All his other fights, that he won similar. And he's kind of a character. I'd like to see him again. And I'm not that impressed with Anderson. I'm not impressed with any of the young American heavyweights because we don't get to see them fight real fights. They're coddled, and then you see them on a showcase fight just like this one. And obviously Jared Anderson went in there as the the A side, if you want to get into that. But the truth of the matter is the fact that his skill set just isn't there. I liked what he said after the fight. He didn't blame it on anybody. He blamed it on himself, and he showed tremendous heart. Actually, like my man Coach, who just popped in the chat room, said, and I hope all you guys in the chat room are going to come and join me for the Hall of Fame thing in a few weeks. I know Dave said, I'd love to go, but I'm in California. Hey, Dave, they invented this new thing. It's called an airplane. You know what I mean? You get on a plane and you fly. You could be in New York in no time at all. Read a good book. I got one for you, and I'll send it to you. But in any event, I liked what he said, and I'll be getting to this in a second, but His Excellency likes him too, and he's going to try to keep building him up. So we haven't seen the end of Anderson, and just because he lost doesn't mean he's exposed. He's no good. All the things that American boxing fans like to say after a fighter that's undefeated loses. And this is why I love the English boxing scene, because boxers in the UK, they lose, they come back. I mean, all you got to do is look at Daniel Dubois, who all of a sudden now is fighting Anthony Joshua. And look at Anthony Joshua. Both of them have losses, and I believe Wembley's already sold out for their fight. So anyway, the fight that I was disappointed in for a lot of reasons was the other heavyweight fight that featured former world heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. going up against Israil, another baby Miller. Look, here's the deal. Ruiz, I've always appreciated Andy Ruiz because of his hand speed. He's got unusually quick hands for a roly-poly kind of a fighter, all right? I mean, you look at a big man like Martin Bacoli, and I said Bacoli, and I called Ruiz a roly-poly. It rhymes, I guess. I don't know. But Martin Bacoli's a big guy, and his hand speed is nowhere near Andy Ruiz. But with that said, Andy Ruiz, you can never judge if he's in good condition or not, because he does have the belly roll. But to me, he clearly was not in good shape. He ran out of gas, and he looked pathetic in that fight. Now, conversely, Miller, he's a hard out. The man has a granite chin. He doesn't seem to get hurt with body shots. And, he basically trapped Ruiz. He did similar in his last fight. He tried to do the same thing, where he kind of, coasted a little bit and conserved his energy. He did it successfully against Ruiz, came on at the second part of that fight. And I got news for you, boys and girls. I thought he won the fight. 116, 112 for Miller was, in my opinion, the correct score for that fight. Two of the other judges scored it even because Ruiz was supposed to win the fight. The truth of the matter is I was never a big baby Miller fan. I got to be honest. I'll start off by saying that. Never was a big baby fan. But I give him credit. Because, with the time off from the cheating and the steroid use and everything else, plus his last fight where he was stopped, he kind of came back and he had a good performance. It's going to earn him another one, and another big payday. And, he comes in at 305 pounds, which was which was lower than his last fight. And Andy Ruiz, he came in pretty heavy too, So, I mean, let me see what it was. I had some notes on that fight. Let's see. Andy Ruiz, let's see. He weighed, he was lighter in his last fight. And his thought process in this fight was he didn't want to give up the weight. Well, he should have gave up the donuts and ran a little more, and maybe the fight would have been a little more entertaining. The only reason why it was entertaining to me was I kind of saw him fading, and then I saw Miller kicking it up a notch, and I got to give Miller credit for that fight. And then when you had the light heavyweight fight, David Morrell, he almost lost that fight against Hot Rod. So I'm not sure about that one. And then the other fights, that draw that opened it up, Alamurov, who's that fan favorite over there in Saudi Arabia. He was lucky that they gave him a draw in that fight. It was a decent card. It was a little under. I thought it would be a little better, but it is what it is. I congratulate the two fighters. I really congratulate in that one is Martin Bacoli and, of course, Terence Crawford. And I guess you got to give Venezuela some credit, too, for beating Pitbull Cruz. Okay, coach is straightening me out here. 274 pounds for Ruiz, 305 for Miller. Yeah. So today, I noticed out on social media, His Excellency made a statement about Canelo. And let me read you the official statement. He said, "I heard what Canelo said, that he respects me." This is His Excellency talking. He said, "I heard what he said, that he respects me, but he doesn't like the way we do business. As for him respecting me, it doesn't matter to me if he does or not. As for the way I do business, I know why he doesn't like it, because I only target big fights at fair prices. So, of course, anyone who likes the easy fights won't like that. And I know how he feels after losing to Bivol. So he's been looking for easier fights ever since. Also, I'm not the one who's afraid of fighting Benavidez or Crawford. Therefore, I knew he was wasting our time and making excuses with big amounts of money that just can't be paid. So I'm continuing my way to make the big fights that serve the boxing world, and he's on his way to making easy show-only fights." I can't agree with His Excellency any more than that. And, when you look at the fight against Bivol, when Canelo fought Bivol schooled him. And listen, for all you Canelo diehard fans, watch it again. Bivol schooled Canelo. Canelo had a rematch clause. He ran like a scared shit dog from somebody. All right. And he has been cherry picking ever since. I thought that the fight with Munguia would have been a little more competitive, but it wasn't. My bad. Okay. This fight coming up with Berlanga, come on. Berlanga is not going to be a competitor. As a matter of fact, I'm telling you right now, I'm not even buying or watching that fight. I did watch the Munguia fight, but there's no way that fight's going to be competitive. Berlanga hasn't fought anybody. Canelo, credit to Canelo, he did fight all the big names, but that was a long time ago. He's been cherry picking opponents ever since, and he's getting paid top dollar. And the pay-per-view that he's robbing me and you and everybody else are more money than any other pay-per-view for shit cards. This card that he's got right now is terrible. Danny Swift Garcia. Look, I love Danny Garcia against Erslandy Lara. You think that's going to be an exciting fight? You got Khalid Plant over Trevor McCumbee. All right, maybe that's going to be an entertaining fight. But then you got Manuel James against Raleigh Romero and Steve Fulton Jr. going up against Carlos Castro. I mean, look, this is, in my opinion, the whole card, is a typical PBC card. It's a smoke and mirrors card, boys and girls. I wouldn't give PBC a nickel anymore. I am so sick of the PBC and their fighters and the fact that Al Heyman has robbed the boxing public. He sold us a bill of goods when he busted out onto the scene with the PBC of, free boxing, and he bombarded us with free boxing on every friggin' network you could heard of, or didn't hear of. And now they fight, what, once a year? And you get all the retreads. The Charlo brothers proved, I told everybody about the fraud Charlo brothers from the beginning. And I don't know, are they both in jail now? I don't know what the deal is. They're both frauds. Even Errol Spence, as much as people love this guy, He never fought anybody. When he fought a real fight, Terence Crawford beat the living hell out of him. His toughest opponent is getting behind the wheel after he's drunk. I mean, come on. And he's getting an immediate shot at a title. It's a joke. So yeah, that card to me is not worth the money, and I'm not going to buy it, and I don't recommend anyone else. His Excellency went on to say, look, I just wrapped up an important meeting with our team. We're planning for upcoming fights that we'll make for the rest of this year into next year. I decided to disregard the Canelo fight as I don't want it anymore. Instead, I'm going to be focusing on for the U.S. market with bigger fights, especially with Crawford. Additionally, I'm going to be making fights for Boots. He's talking about Innes, Haney, which is, I don't know how you can make exciting fights for Devin Haney. He's just a boring fighter. Shakur, Stevenson, Ortiz, Anderson. So he is backing Anderson. And he's talking about Virgil Ortiz, I believe, and who I'm going to talk about his fight this weekend. I'm expecting to see Virgil Ortiz against Terence Crawford. They did, kind of mention that fight. Benavidez, the thing about Benavidez is a big young fighter. Everybody's saying Canelo is avoiding him. He's avoiding him because he's bigger than him. But make no mistake, Benavidez, he still has a long way to go. I mean, I know there's a lot of people on the Benavidez bandwagon, but the guy has no defense, and he's like he's not refined yet. And, they're rushing him. Same scenario as we saw with Anderson as a heavyweight is going to happen to Benavidez because his level of opposition, and Berlanga is going to see it too, because Canelo is going to beat Berlanga. They don't fight anybody, and all of a sudden they're catapulted into a big fight against somebody who can fight. And make no mistake, I'm being critical to Canelo, but he can fight. All right, he's just not choosing the way most Mexican fighters choose, where they really challenged themselves. I think greatness doesn't come from being undefeated. Greatness comes from challenging yourself. When you go back in history and you see all these fighters that they win a title in their division, then they fight bigger guys and they win that. I mean, look, you could say what you want about Roy Jones Jr. You could say what you want against who he fought, but Roy Jones Jr. As a middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, then back down. I mean, come on. John Ruiz was a legitimate heavyweight, and he was a legitimate heavyweight champion. Great fighters do great things. A lot of these smaller fighters that move up in weight. I mean, look at Manny Pacquiao. You could say what you want. Oh, he lost to Floyd. Yeah, but the point is he accomplished so much more than an undefeated record. And I think that Canelo, he can't really. He proved to himself that he can't really go up any higher in weight, but he could be making the fights that people want to see. And even should he lose, it's not going to diminish his value. So right now, the thing with Canelo is he just doesn't want to lose. So he's making sure that he's fighting fights that he won't lose. Anyway, I'll go on to say that His Excellency said Benavidez, Zapata, and many more. He said he's working with Tim Tszew's team, but he said, looking at his next events, Anthony Joshua against Dubois, that's coming up at the end of September. And then, of course, the Fury Usyk rematch. I mean, look, I saw a post from my girl, Raging Babe, right? She I love her. She's great. But she did speak the truth, and I agree with her. She said all of a sudden, this guy's getting all these accolades. He's been in the boxing business for like a year, and he's the savior. And she also made a comment on social media about the money. Well, it was kind of sad to see how they all kiss his ass because, it is about the money. Boxing is all about the money. If you want to follow the big fights, you follow the money. But here's the difference, what I think with this guy. I think that this guy is actually throwing enough money at the fighters to fight the fights we want to see. And so that's kind of a win-win situation. He does deserve credit for that. And the fighters, as shallow as they may be about the money, at least when they finally get the number that they want, they step in the ring. And we've been treated to some pretty good fights, good matchups on paper. But a lot of exposures happening because of the promoters and managers that don't put their fighters in with progressively harder opposition as they're coming up. So they're learning on the job, a la the real Baby Anderson. So I say hats off to him. So I'm glad that he's doing it. Hey, a fight that's taking place Friday, ESPN picked up the Angel Ayala going up against David Aplanaro. I like this fight. This is the flyweight division, which is a hot division. We don't get to see a lot of those fights here in the States, but there's a lot of talented fighters, and these two guys are pretty talented too. They're fighting for the vacated title by Bam Rodriguez. So I'm glad ESPN Plus picked that one up. I'll be looking forward to that one. Some other news. Munguia is taking on Bazianian on September 20th. And one thing I wanted to mention, it took place a couple of weeks ago, so you guys probably already saw it, but His Excellency and his promotional company, Raya Season, announced a deal a couple of weeks back with several of the United States promoters, including, of course, Top Rank and Golden Boy, and 12 fights, 12 events, I should say, with each of them. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, he's putting his foot on the pedal here. One other fight I wanted to mention, and I see maybe Bacoli in the mix here. A couple of weeks back, we saw Derek Chisora beat Joe Joyce. Now, Joe Joyce is slow as molasses, okay? I don't know why they kept really putting him out there. And they fed him Chisora thinking that he was going to win the fight. But Chisora won the fight. So we're going to see Chisora again against somebody, maybe Bacoli. But the fight that I think would be really good against Bacoli is Zili Zhang. I think that fight would be good against Bacoli. Or even, I know they're going to wheel out Deontay Wilder again because he's going to say, he had a dream that he's going to kill somebody. And, people still think that he's something. And that's a fight. I want to see Bacoli again. I hate to say it, but any event. Some fights I'm going to break down and give you my predictions on this fight that's scheduled for this weekend between Boachuk and Virgil Ortiz. But some fights that I'm looking forward to that are coming up. Tuesday, September 3rd, Inoue against DJ Doheny. I like the fight because it's a unification fight. Well, I shouldn't say unification. Inoue has all the belts in the junior featherweight division. But I always like watching the monster. So that's taking place on September 3rd. Munguia against Eric Brazilian. That's a fight that I just mentioned. That's taking place September 20th. And then a fight I just can't wait to see. Danny Dubois against Anthony Joshua live from Wembley Stadium on DAZN. It is for the IBF World Heavyweight title. The IBF was about to strip, and I'm not sure if they officially stripped Usyk or not, but Usyk let it go. And I like the fight. I personally think that Danny Dubois should have waited for this type of matchup. I know that he's a fighter that's young, but I do believe that he needs to work on his defense. And he's stepping in there. He's got a good chin. He showed that. People were questioning his chin prior to his last fight, but he showed that he's got a good chin against Miller. And the truth of the matter is that I think he's being rushed into this fight. AJ is a way superior boxer, and he's a sharp shooter. And Dubois' defense is suspect. I do believe that Daniel Dubois has the ability to knock out Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's own chin is a little chinny chin chin soft, but I think that Dubois has to get in there. He's going to take a lot of punishment to land a punch, and I just think that AJ's movement and his boxing ability, plus his 7.5 mile long reach that he's got. And if he fights the way he fought in his last fight, he's going to be a tough out. He's going to be a tough out. I want to see the fight, but I kind of was pulling for Daniel Dubois to be a big player in the heavyweight division. I just don't think he's ready yet. I think they rushed him. I think he's a big enough name. He's going to sell tickets. I mean, come on. I mean, this is an all Brit fight. I mean, the only fight bigger than that would be Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, and Johnny Fisher, he's fighting again. When's he coming back? Did he? I just had it on my notes, but he's coming back soon. And I'm looking forward to that. Oh yeah, here it is right here. He's coming back in next couple of weeks, August 24th on DAZN. And Jack Catterall is taking on Regis Prograis. So that's going to be another good card on DAZN. DAZN took over box. Look, you want to say about what's his excellency taking over the sport of boxing from a promotional standpoint. Well, DAZN is taking over boxing from a broadcast point of view, and I love what they've done with broadcasting. I mean, you could see every fight there from top-notch number one rated fighters, champions, unification fights, down to the club shows. So I'm loving what I'm seeing with DAZN. And no, they don't pay me to say it. As far as the September 14th fight with Canelo and Berlanga, I'm not paying for it. It's not worth it, and I'm not paying for it. Okay, so this weekend you got Serhii Bohachuk is taking on Virgil Ortiz, and on paper, Bohachuk is an interim champion by the WBC, according to the documentation. He shares that belt with Sebastian Fundora, unless something's happened that I missed. My man John from LDL TV is saying in the chat room that His Excellency is going to buy DAZN. I don't know. I don't know about that. If that's fact, if you're telling us something, that's great. But I don't see why he would do that. He can keep doing what he's doing. He's promoting Saudi Arabia, and all these fighters now and promoters. I mean, the fighters and the promoters in the United States, they don't co-promote with each other, but they are now in Saudi Arabia. The way one of the, in my opinion, the best United States promoter ever, Don King, used to do with Bob Arum. You think they like each other? Now they do. They're both in their 90s, but back in the day, they didn't like each other. They hated each other. But guess what? They made the fights happen, the fights that the fans wanted to see. And when they could both make some coin, they did it. So and I think that His Excellency is a good middleman to get these promoters to work together. Look, the Brits, the UK boxing scene, these promoters have no problems working with each other. It's the United States promoters. I mean, let's face it. All right. So this fight, Bohachuk against Virgil Ortiz. Bohachuk's got an interim belt. I can't even believe I'm saying it. He is ranked by the computer at number 7 in the world. He's got a record of 24 wins, 1 loss, and that 1 loss was by knockout to Brandon Adams, and that took place in 2021. Brandon Adams was a bigger guy, but still, that's his loss. He's got 24 wins, 23 coming by knockout. Only 97 rounds as a pro, but he does have almost a 96% knockout ratio. He's 29 years old, 6 foot tall, 73 inch reach, out of Ukraine. So his best wins of his career, in my opinion, were actually his last 3 fights. the two of them were in 2023. He had a 6-round stoppage over Nathaniel Gallimore, and he had a first round blowout stoppage over Patrick Galati. And then his last fight, which was this year, a 12-round decision over Brian Mendoza to win the interim belt. And Mendoza was, pretty highly regarded. Those were his best 3 wins, in my opinion, of his 25 fight career. Now he steps in the ring with Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz, right? I mean, he's got 21 bouts. He's 21-0 with 21 knockouts. All his wins coming by knockout. The computer ranks him at number 2. He's got 71 rounds as a pro. He's only 26 years old, 5'10", 70-inch reach. So he's given up a couple inches in height and 3 inches in reach to Boachuk. The computer has him ranked above Boachuk at number 2. The WBA has him ranked at number 1, and the WBO has him ranked at number 2. For a guy that the computer ranks at number 2, and this is where I can't stand the sanctioning bodies because they are part of the problem that has ruined the sport. The WBC or the IBF don't have this guy rated. Now, is it because he's not fighting for their belt? Yeah. Is it because they don't think he's worthy of being at least in their top 10? How can you say that? I can't stand the way sanctioning bodies just dismiss a fighter if he's not going to fight for one of their belts as like he doesn't exist. This is something good. McKillian and Rozecki, the fight that was supposed to happen and then couldn't because of the cut, is scheduled now September 28th in Miami for the WBC Cruiserweight Championship. Hey, I wish I could be there for that fight. If I only knew somebody at Don King Promotions that could get me there to that fight. That's a fight I really like to see. So keep your eyes on that one, boys and girls. Anyway, back to my breakdown. Virgil Ortiz, his best 3 wins of his career, in my opinion, were all about 2 years ago. In 2019, he had a 5th round stoppage over a then top guy in Brad Solomon. In 2020, he had a 7th round stoppage over Samuel Vargas. Again, was one of the top guys in that division. And in 2021, 7th round stoppage over Maurice Hooker, another good fighter. But those were almost 2 years ago. He did have a 18-month layoff, and he returned with 2 wins, both blowout first-round wins, a knockout over Frederick Lawson and another stoppage over Thomas Delorme. So really he hasn't fought that many rounds, and he's going in against Boachuk. I think it's a legitimate fight. But Virgil Ortiz hasn't really impressed me, especially in his 2 first-round blowouts. But I am going to go with him. And the reason why I'm going to go with him is because he needs to win this fight. And he needs to win this fight in order to set up a meaningful fight against Terence Crawford, where they both can make some money over in Saudi Arabia or promoted by His Excellency. Joel is in there saying, "Oh yeah, hopefully they're going to stream it." No, I'm talking about I want to be ringside, man. I want to be ringside for that. Maybe there's a little help that can be done to get me there. And I would have been coming fresh off my New York State Boxing Hall of Fame induction banquet, which I'm really looking forward to. Last but not least, I have an email from my man Coach, who's in the chat room right now, and I want to thank him and visit his website, strictlybusinessboxing.com. That's strictlybusinessboxing.com. Always has some great stuff up there. When one of our older shows where we did a showcase on Joe Gans, he's going to have in a couple of days, August 10th. So check that out. The other thing I want to give a shout out and a congratulations. We talked about this kid earlier, this year, but Travis, the what's next kid, Smith, he's still in the amateurs. I can't wait for him to turn pro, but he's still in the amateurs, and he just notched another tournament win in his belt. He won the New York boxing tournament at the 138-pound division, 138-pound division in the junior division. So congrats to my man Travis and to Coach. It's his protege. So I'm glad to see that. So I just want to make a couple of comments from the chat room people. Champy just says the only real fight left for Canelo is the winner of Bivol and BWF. Look, Canelo's not fighting that. He's not going to fight Bivol. First of all, Bivol will beat him again and again and again. Bivol beats Canelo 95 out of 100 times. And the reason is because Bivol can box. And Canelo, he can box when he's fighting against a guy that he's, overwhelmingly better, but against another boxer. And this is why I still maintain that if Canelo had the balls to step in the ring with Terence Crawford, that Terence Crawford would win that fight. We know that he's not going to knock out Canelo. Canelo's got a granite chin. But I think that his movement and Canelo's plodding. He's not on his toes when he fights. He plods and he corners his fighters. He works the body. He breaks down a fighter. I mean, look, give Canelo credit. He breaks down fighters the way he's supposed to. But he's not breaking down Crawford. And, just because Crawford lost, now they're throwing in the towel, so to speak. But this is my point about great fighters wanting to do and accomplish great things. That's why I love Terence Crawford so much. Terence Crawford wants to challenge himself. He's willing to lose the fight and say, hey, I tried. Plus, making all that money. Canelo's not. And Canelo uses the excuse, oh, well, I'm in a lose-lose situation. No, you're not. Because back in the day, and when pride mattered, and when a smaller fighter called out a bigger fighter, they fought. And the reason why is because when the smaller fighter calls out the bigger fighter, the guy just has to answer the call. It would be different if Canelo called out Crawford and then goes in and beats up Crawford. Then you could make the argument that Canelo's trying to make right now. It's a lose-lose situation for me. If I win, they're going to say he was too small. If I lose, they're going to say I'm overrated, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what happened. What happened was Crawford is calling out Canelo to prove his own greatness. Canelo likes to talk that he's great, but he's not living up to it. A lot of Mexican fans have turned against Canelo. Why do you think he fights all the time in Vegas? I don't know, man. I do believe that that Crawford would win a close decision against him. Coach is picking Virgil Ortiz by stoppage if he stays healthy in the fight. We got some other stuff. Some people taking Dubois over Anthony Joshua. Coach, you're taking Dubois over Anthony Joshua. The truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is and Team Batman Boxing, I think he agrees with me about Crawford. Look, Crawford's no spring chicken. He's trying to get another couple of big fights and then call it a day. And personally, at this stage of the game, by him staying with Top Rank, no disrespect to Top Rank, he never made the money he should have. He never had the big fights that he should have. I'm glad to see him with his excellency. And should Virgil Ortiz win this weekend, I wouldn't mind seeing Crawford fight him or anyone else for that matter. I enjoy watching Terence Crawford. Excuse me. All right, boys and girls. Sorry that we he's saying Coach does not think, he's not. We're not giving our predictions for AJ Dubois yet, but he was saying it was a different subject. But anyway, I couldn't read all of the chat room filled up, and I couldn't keep up with all the stuff. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. Sorry we took a couple of weeks off. We are going to be doing regular shows at least through this year. And then I'll make a decision whether we just do specials or hang it up for good. I know in our heyday, we did really well with viewership, and we were on all the stations and all that other stuff. But if people aren't going to be into it, especially a lot of the younger fans, it doesn't make any sense. Plus, we would love to get some bigger sponsors. I may look into some other opportunities, maybe join another show and work with them. I don't know. It's all up in the air, but we're definitely going to make a decision before the end of this year that I will share with you guys. But in the meantime, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, all I could say is ciao, baby.